What are key things that parents can begin to instill in their kids that can put them kids on the road to financial success?
That's a great question. Get them involved. When you bring them to the grocery store, let them, be involved in paying, maybe handing the change, looking at how much stuff costs. Like if there's 2 items, this cost versus that cost, and why you're making the decision on the other. And people always say to me, what age should folks start? When kids start learning and memorizing the lyrics to certain songs, it's time for you to start teaching them about money. So whatever that age is, because it'll be different for different kids, but if they can recite the lyrics to your favorite song that you play all the time or their favorite song that they hear all the time, that's when you want to start. So just like they memorize those words, it's because they hear it very often. So if you're teaching them financial terms very often, talking about not the bad with the money only, but financial terms that you want them to remember, they'll begin to recite those as well.
How's it going, y'all? I want to welcome you guys to another episode of Trade Secrets by Tripletote. Today we have a very special guest. This person I have a really good history with. Her name is Patrina Dixon, and she's the owner of the business, the book, the brand, It's My Money.
Yes.
She's a professional financial consultant, helping people organize themselves and helping them grow their nest egg financially, or helping them grow their income by teaching what she's learned. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Awesome. Now, for people who don't know, let's take them to the beginning, I guess. Where did you grow up? Did you grow up here in Hartford?
I did. I grew up in Hartford, I started in what was then called Bowles Park.
Ooh.
And so now it's
BP.
all reimagined, right?
BP.
Yes. And then from there, I was off of Albany Avenue on Edgewood Street.
Nice. Edgewood Street.
Yes.
Wow. So familiar. That's great. Now, from there, you went to, so did you go to Weaver?
I did not. So I went to parochial school, so Northwest.
Yes. Okay. Yes. I'm familiar with Northwest too.
Catholic.
Yeah. That's great. See, the good thing about Northwest, for you guys out there who may not know, it's a Catholic school, but it's still like a public school.
It was very diverse. That's one of the things that I loved about it.
It was all types of people there.
Yeah, and I loved it so much. My daughter actually graduated from Northwest as well.
Yeah, Northwest is a great school, but when you first hear about the idea of a Catholic school, you think it's so different. But again, anybody who had the opportunity, they came from our neighborhood, but they went to Northwest, so it was still the same thing. And then we played them in sports, same people, and it was a good mashup. Like you realize that everybody's the same.
Exactly.
Yeah. Exactly
right.
Northwest, Conard. Yeah. Everybody's the same. Everybody's the same. So when you went to Northwest, what type of student were you? Was math your thing, or?
Yes, math has always been my thing. I loved math, even from elementary days. So that was my favorite thing. I'm not really great in the English category. And it's interesting being an author, but that's why you have editors.
That's right.
So I can get the thoughts out there, but grammatically correct and all, I need an editor for that. So math has always been my thing. I was also an athlete, although I wasn't on like the basketball team. I played volleyball a little bit. I ran a little bit of track, but not formally. Understood. So I've always been a very competitive person, even back in the school days.
Now, from Northwest, when you graduated, where'd you go to school after that? What'd you do after that?
Yep. So I went to University of Hartford.
Nice.
And then my little one came along, who's now about to turn 30. So I had a little, I want to call it a delay in my overall educational aspirations. But I did University of Hartford, and then from there I was able to get various different certificates in the financial space.
Wow, that's great. Now, I met you because we were both speaking at an event for children on Albany Avenue, right near the corner of Albany and Signey. Actually, I grew up on Signey and Sargent Street, so that's literally right down the street from where I grew up. But we met at an event, and you were talking to the youth about the importance of understanding financials. I was kind of coming from a different point of view of marketing and hustle, but we clicked immediately. you just posted recently on Facebook of where they now type photo like us back those 3-4 years ago. Yeah. So that was good. I mean, your energy there was like super positive and things like that. How long have you been working your own business, teaching people financial literacy?
Yes, I can't even believe as I sit here now thinking about that while you're asking me my question. It's almost 4 years now.
Wow.
So almost 4 years. I started my business in March of 4 years ago. And then from there, September of that same year is when I launched my very first book. That's called It's My Money.
Nice.
Yes.
Check that out.
Yes.
It's My Money.
And the first, or volume 1 of the book, and I want to make sure that I say volume 1 because volume 2 is a little bit different coming out soon. Volume 1 was designed for ages 13 to 18. Okay. And the reason why I focused on our youth is because even today, it wasn't when we were back in school, and even today, financial literacy is not consistently taught in our schools. So my goal, once I identified that that was still the case, how are the folks going to learn? Like I didn't learn, and what I know now, I wish I knew back then. Yeah. So I said, what am I going to do my part to fix or correct what's happening right now? And that's why It's My Money was born. So once the book was published, I went out and tried to, share it with everybody.
That's right.
Teach the financial skills that I have learned along the way with all those that will want to listen. And it's been such a wonderful journey that I've been on.
Now let's dive into that a little bit. You self-published, right?
I did self-publish.
That's great. Now, what tool did you use? Did you use Amazon to do that, or what tool did you use to get your own book out there in the world? Yeah,
so now I told you it's been about 4 years. So at the time it was CreateSpace. That also makes the book available on demand, print on demand via Amazon. Nice. So now it's KDP Publishing. But yes, I went that route. I had an editor to edit, the content to ensure that it would read properly for the journalists. But yes, I went through that. My book is available on Amazon as well as on my website.
That's great. That's great. And one thing I like about, and I try to talk about this often, the day and time that we're in, is you do not need a publisher right now to yay or nay whether or not you get a book out there. You can do it yourself, and you did it yourself.
Exactly right. And it's and people, I love that you're saying that, because people think it's wickedly easy. And a lot of people want to, be published by these big publishing firms, which is great if you can get a deal like that. But what I found I learned from other authors that had published before me was like when you go that route, you lose some of I want to call it right. You lose the autonomy. Like I wanted my book to be called, what it is. I wanted it to serve the population I wanted to serve. I wanted it to be released when I wanted it to be released. So sometimes you don't have those, the ability to make those decisions when you're picked up by somebody else. The other thing is you own all the money that is made from it.
Important.
So depending on the platform you have it on, there may be percentages that are taken from that to have your book available and for them to do other printing and stuff like that for you. But you could, you have your own copies. You can go where you want to go with it. You're not dictated, or a schedule is not dictated for you. Now, one would say, but you would trade off making a lot of money for these big firms, and sometimes the answer to that is yes. If you are passionate about what you're doing, you can get your message out there, your book, your product out there through methods of your own where you have full control of it. So yes, that's the route I went.
And I love saying it again, the great thing about today is there is no wrong answer.
Exactly.
You did your book on your own. You got all the royalties, all the money from it, which you should, because it's your life, it's all your content.
Exactly.
And at the same time, if it does great, you can make a second decision and go with a publisher if you wanted to.
Exactly right.
But once you go with that publisher, you can't go backwards.
Exactly.
So you make the smartest way to even do that.
Right.
And they'll take a book and they'll expect to sell a certain number of copies, and if it doesn't, they'll rule it as a not success. But to be able to receive all the funds from your own work, you don't need it to sell 1 million copies. If it does, it's great. But if not, you can still make a great living off publishing your own books, and that's something anybody can do if they put in the work, of course, to do it.
That's exactly right. And one of the things I want to add from there is what I found. So my original goal, so that's why it's important to understand that you can pivot, and when you're in control, right, you own what you do. My goal was I wanted to put out 3 books back to back. So 1 into 1 year, another the next year, another the next year. So volume 1, volume 2, volume 3, boom, 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 back to back. Since volume 1 was released, I have not had, I've had so much success in other things that came from the book that I haven't been able to do volume 2 yet. So that book allowed me to go and speak. Volume 1 allowed me to go to speak in schools, allowed me to do speaking engagements, allowed me to do workshops. Just, it has been so wonderful and so well received, again, because of the need for our young people to have, these financial topics that are taught in my book. So know that you be ready for the success that a book can bring to you, because you may not get paid just from the book sales. It may be from the other prongs that come from the fact that you have this book, which has been worked really well for me thus far.
Now let's help out at least the parents out there. I'm not sure nobody from the crowd may be in high school, but what are key things that parents can begin to instill in their kids that can put them kids on the road to financial success?
That's a great question. Get them involved. When you bring them to the grocery store, let them be involved in paying, maybe handing the change, looking at how much stuff costs. Like if there's 2 items, this cost versus that cost, and why you're making the decision on the other. And people always say to me, what age should folks start? When kids start learning and memorizing the lyrics to certain songs, it's time for you to start teaching them about money. So whatever that age is, because it'll be different for different kids, but if they can recite the lyrics to your favorite song that you play all the time, or their favorite song that they hear all the time, that's when you want to start. So just like they memorize those words, it's because they hear it very often. So if you're teaching them financial terms very often, talking about not the bad with the money only, but financial terms that you want them to remember, they'll begin to recite those as well. And then let's get out of the car. When you go to the bank, don't just go to the ATM. Don't just pull up, because my daughter thought, just go to that machine and you can pull it out. And I'm like, sweetie, if it's not in there, you can't pull it out. So go inside. Show them how money has to go in order to come out. So do deposits, do some transactions inside of the bank, and let them participate in that. Let them write out the deposit slip, or if you're, they can't sign a check, but let them participate in the activities within the branch so that they can learn how the process works.
Now, also one of the benefits of your book, like you were just explaining, is you got a lot of public speaking gigs.
Yes.
How did you prepare for that? Because I'm pretty sure the first 1 or 2 that came, you weren't as experienced back then, but it was like, okay, opportunity knocks. Like, how did you get yourself formatted even to say, okay, I wrote this in a book, now I have to speak it out? What was your thinking from making that transition from writing to a speaker?
Yeah, so interestingly enough for me, I work in sales, so I actually talk for a living, so it worked really well. But I was nervous. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I'm going out, I'm a sea of people looking back at me, and it's what they're waiting to hear from me. No reaction. Does that mean they understand what I'm saying? They already know. Do they not like it? Did I not say it right? Do I have something on my face? So all of those things was happening for me. But you know what? I listened to a lot of coaches, and if I didn't start, I would never get started. So I had to do that first one, learn from that. I usually have somebody recording me or telling me afterwards what I could have done differently, and then I take that constructive criticism, and then I try to work on that and modify for the next. So I think I got better, and I'm still growing by doing more. So the more I did, the more I learned what didn't work, what doesn't work, how to read the crowd better. So it's just getting out there, getting out there.
I remember one time I went back to my high school for the first time, went back to Hartford High. And I gave a speech to a class. It was one of my first speeches, and of course I did not get paid. It was for free, but it was for practice for me. Listen, high school kids are brutally honest about how they feel about what you say. Forget if it's true, forget if it's helpful, forget if it's motivational. If you're not keeping them engaged, they will quickly say and make maneuvers that it really throws you off.
It does.
Like, oh my God. And I think that is a good training ground, and it's a good place to start to give back also. But I think not too young, but I think that middle school, high school space, when you talk to kids, if you can keep them engaged and the information you're saying is useful, you're going to have a much easier time out there with adults who know that they have to respect the speaker. They have to wait. They have to, wait till question and answer time to ask questions. They can't just cut you off, because students just go all in on you.
Exactly right. And that's another thing in speaking. You have to know your audience. So not all the time are you going to get who's going to be in the room, because sometimes folks are registering, or maybe there's not even a registration. So even the person who has brought you in, paid or unpaid, they may not know who's going to be in the room. But when you go to like high schools, most times teachers or principals know the population. So I always ask, like, have they learned this or that topic, whichever topic I'm talking about? Am I at the beginning of the day, the end of the day? Because that helps me to determine, okay, I'm not going to do 90 minutes at the end of the day when it's between me and them getting on the bus. You know what I mean? Or maybe, so you just kind of figure it out. And then what is going on? Like, I know I recently had done, I had a workshop at a local high school, and right before that, there was something that, and I'm trying to think of her name, Lizzo, I think is her name. Lizzo had, there was something that happened relevant to her that I was able to incorporate into the presentation, and I had everybody's attention. They're like, first, like, what do you know about Lizzo, kind of thing, and then they're like, okay, you're down. Let me, I like this, and then that helped me pepper in things that I know that were relevant to them, so that I can keep their attention. So every time they start to go, even if I had to fast forward a couple slides to get them back, I know I watch the audience to be able to do that. So definitely, the more you do it, the better you get at it.
So the things you teach, they're for young adults, they're for young kids, and they're for parents and people, professionals, correct?
Well, so how it works is financial topics are what they are: saving, budgeting, credit, all that. Where I modify is who I'm going to. So it's not that the topic change; it's how I present the information to them changes.
Understood.
So maybe I get a bit more granular with a certain age than I do another. For adults, most adults that I'm speaking to already messed their credit up, so I'm not really starting off like what credit is. I'm kind of then talking about here's how you can change that current situation. So it really is, I stay within certain topics that I'm well versed in, and then it's just how I deliver it based on the audience that I'm going in front of. And usually I work with high school, so 13 to 18, and then I do 19 to 25 is a segment, and then all other is another.
That's so important. Right now, we have a situation where there's this college debate, and it's not a debate about whether or not people should get more education. It's a debate about the cost. And I had a great meeting with a career guidance counselor last week, and she was telling me the goods and the downs of the students and their performances and their decisions to go to school and what school they want to go to and why. And she said that most students, and families included, don't have the financial literacy or aptitude to say this college versus that college for the price.
Yes.
Not the education, for the price. And I just related to her, and I said, what's so funny? When I think back at that age, I was 17, maybe 18. You can't make a $250,000 decision at 18 years old.
That's exactly right.
You cannot.
That's exactly
Even
right.
if you give me the information, I'm not emotionally experienced enough to know that this choice I'm making versus that choice is going to cost me $50,000 versus $300,000.
Exactly.
And I think what you're doing is so helpful, because you're at least putting them in a perspective to understand the implications, even though we know they're still young. Putting them in a position to understand the implications of decisions, especially college and buying a house can be the two biggest in your life ever.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And that's why I say start early. So if parents start having conversations with young people about finances early, just by sheer factor of you're in high school, whether or not you are going to college or not, because not all folks do after high school, the conversation about college is going to come up when you're in high school. If it ends up being where you go is a different thing. Then it's okay. Once you decide that's where you want to go, it's where do you go next? Do you go right to that four-year university? Do you maybe start out at a community college and then ensure that those classes can transfer to the four-year university when you may have more funds? There's a lot of states that are making it available for people to go to community colleges at no cost, depending on their folks' income. So then you go get that, what I call it, that free education, but ensure that that can transfer, because not only is it a financial decision that they're probably not ready to make, it's also, what do I even want to do? Not just when I graduate graduate in 4 years, but for the rest of my life.
That's right.
Your decision, sometimes you're trying to do that at 18, 19, 17 for some kids. So it's like, maybe go that route so that you and your family members can save some more money if you haven't started already. You can work while you're going to community college to help pay for where you want to go in 4 years. So, there's a bunch of different ways it can be done now. Higher education is definitely, I'm a proponent for that, but I'm not a proponent for people to put up their houses for their kids to go to school, and the kids may not finish, or they may decide to do something else. So now you have a house that, you may have had in a better financial place that's no longer, and then now you also have student loan debt. So now you've complicated the family financial situation. That's right. That's why I think the conversations, the transparency at certain ages about what is feasible and not really helps the overall family dynamic as it pertains to the money.
Now, this information is just a tip of an iceberg of the type of help, type of guidance and information that you give to your clients. Could you just rattle off the books you have out, the seminars you give, and where people can find you?
Absolutely. So I'll start with the books. I have a book called It's My Money. Volume 1 is already out and available on Amazon as well as on my website. Volume 2 will be dropping very shortly. Nice. I just finished the back cover. I'm so excited. Awesome. So that's going to be dropping very shortly. That's written for 19 through 25. So some of the same topics, but I get a little deeper in those topics. And both of them are written in journal format. So you have line pages after each chapter, inspirational quotes throughout, as well as some action steps that I would recommend based on the information that you read in some testimonies. The other book that I have out is called Love, Money, and Power, because when you're in a relationship, regardless if it's a marriage or any other type of relationship, money conversations can be difficult. So it sort of helps you with that. I'm a co-author with 4 other financial experts that we came together and we took different prongs of finances and put that together for relationships. So that book is also available on Amazon. And again, volume 2 is dropping soon, so stay tuned. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at itsmymoney_. That's ITSMYMONEY_ And then on Facebook, I have a Facebook group. It's called It's My Money Squad. I put out a lot of free tips and the community is engaging. So you can go on Facebook and check me out there. And then lastly, my website is itsmymoneyjournal.info. So that's ITSMYMONEYJOURNAL.info. So all of my information is there. Where I have workshops are usually out there, information about me and how you can contact me if you want a workshop. My workshop titles are typically around these topics, and you could mismatch them however you want depending on your audience. So it's savings, how to do it, where best to do it, and why it's important to do it. Credit, how to use credit responsibly, how to increase your credit score by paying your bills on time, budgeting, and how to use various different budgeting strategies and fluid budgets in order to align to your income and your expenses. I also do a lot on entrepreneurship and how to make additional streams of income with side hustles and monetizing your passions. So those are my favorite ones. Those are the ones that I'm always asked to talk about. And there's several others that you can contact me. Home ownership is one that I do, how to prepare for that, things like that.
I definitely want to have you back on to dive deeper into these subjects individually. Sure. Like we could do a 3 or 4 part thing where we just give the audience the information, because these are a lot of entrepreneurs. So managing finances for a business, or even managing your own personal finances so you can have a little nest egg to start a business.
That's right.
Or making sure you have the disciplines and constraints to not spend too much on a business. Like these are just topics that I know you would kill at, and my audience would get a great benefit from.
And I'm living a life. This is my whole life right now. So, I'm at where I have a 9 to 5 that is financing my 5 to 9. That's how I say it.
That's the best. That's the best. I want to thank you for coming to the podcast today. Thank you for all your information.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me. I had a great time.
Awesome. And thank you guys for tuning in. We'll be back with you soon.
It's my money. Check me out.
Nice.
All right.